risk is a futuristic event. Okay, it is not about current. It is about the futuristic event which can have an impact on the project. So is the impact going to be only a negative impact? Not necessary. So the risk can bring in either a positive impact or a negative impact. So when we say positive impact, then that is called as opportunity. When it is going to bring in a negative impact, then that is called as a threat. Okay. So risk, what is risk? Risk is an uncertain event. That is a futuristic event which can bring in an impact in the project, which can be a positive impact or a negative impact. That is, it can be an opportunity or a threat. This is about the risk. So another point is, most of the people are clear about it, but I just want to reiterate this part as well. What is risk and issue? Okay, so some people have a confusion, and that is why I thought I'll give a clarity. See, risk is a futuristic event. This may happen in the future, which can have an impact in the project. But issue is something which has happened. So something which has happened in the project, which is going to have a negative impact, right? Issue is always about bringing a negative impact, and it has happened. But when we are talking about risk, it can bring in a positive impact or a negative impact, and it is about a futuristic event. This is about the risk and the issue. So now, when you're going to plan your risk management, the factor which influences your risk management plan is the risk attitude of the stakeholders and especially your client. Risk attitude. Yeah. So the risk attitude of the client, which means, is a client willing to take risk or not willing to take risk? This is called as risk attitude. So this can be two things. One is risk appetite and the risk averse. So risk appetite and risk averse. What is risk appetite? Risk appetite means willingness to take risk. Is what is risk appetite. If the client is willing to take risk, we say that the client has risk appetite. See, let's take, you are going to construct a building or a residential house for your client. And the client says that he wants a classic look. And he says that please import the marbles and other things. So I want this building or this house to have a classic look. And it should be a very, very, very outstanding building. Okay, so here the client, and he says, even if you have to shed some extra funds is okay, but this has to look good, a classic look. So here the client is ready to take risk with regarding to the cost, right? This is willingness to take risk. When we are talking about risk averse, unwillingness to take risk is called as risk averse. So if the client says, no, I don't want to take risk of importing and all those things, whatever material is available, with that, whatever possible, you do it. So in this case, the client is not willing to take risk, and we call this as risk averse. Okay. So I hope you understood what is risk attitude, which can be a risk appetite and a risk averse. So when you're planning your risk management, the risk attitude of your client and your stakeholders has to be considered. Okay. And then another term is risk threshold. Risk threshold is, see, again, linking it to risk appetite. The client says, even if you have to spend some extra dollars, it is okay, but let it be let it have a classic look. Okay. A classic appearance to the building. Here he says like spending extra is okay, but how much extra, right? That has to be fixed, right? You cannot, like, instead of like let's say like 40 lakhs, you cannot end up spending 80 lakhs to build the building. Then the client says, okay, 10% extra. He says anything beyond 10% above the budget is unacceptable. So the limit beyond which it is not acceptable is called as risk threshold. So the limit beyond which it is unacceptable is called as risk threshold. So you know, like, you can spend extra, but with a maximum of 10%, right? So these are few terms. See, another thing about risk is the risk can be a overall project risk or a individual project risk. See, overall project risk or an individual project risk. What is overall project risk? See, the project itself can be a riskier one, right? See, for example, if you're building a software for a surgical equipment, then the project itself is a riskier one. Let's compare with another project where you're building a software for a gaming tool. So the gaming tool, the risk is not high. If at all it is going to fail, then maybe the player is going to lose some hours, will get irritated, frustrated, that's all. But in the case of a software for a surgical equipment, if there is going to be any delay, then it can be a life-threatening one as well. Okay. So this is overall project risk. And irrespective of the project having a high risk or low risk, every project has its own individual risk. See, let us take the same example now, where surgical software for a surgical equipment and software for a gaming tool. Software for a gaming tool. So here, see, in both maybe server downtime, software glitch, or key resources resigning. So both the projects can have its own individual project risk, right? So overall project risk is as a whole, the project having a high risk or a low risk. And individual project risk is every project has its own risk. I hope you understood what is overall project risk and individual project risk.